Well, we actually just got this email about Alexis Tollfree. She was just named, let me make sure I say this properly, region All-American finalist.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I'm glad it's out. I didn't know if it was out. What that is the big award through our association, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, the WBCA. They have the top 10 All-American list. And when you get on that ballot, that means you make all region, and that's a very select group. I think it's only 52 maybe kids out of the entire country. And after the year she had, obviously certainly deserving, but a really cool thing to get.
How have the players been handling things? Have you talked to any of them?
Oh yeah, all differently. Some are really practicing social distancing, others not probably doing as well as I'd hope, but a lot of them are together. A few of them went to each other's houses and places and homes. And then others aren't taking it so well. Others have really, it's been a harsh ending, not what, they picture in their head growing up as kids, especially the seniors, Kiera and Lex, but even our freshmen. I've talked to Michaela a couple of different times, and via text through everybody, we're trying to stay in touch in some shape, form, or fashion. Usually we're kind of using the mode that I stayed in contact with them while they were on campus. Some kids are texters, other kids are talkers. Yeah. But it's really hard on a kid like Lex, who was to come in your office and, put her head on your shoulder, her head on your shoulder and tell her what's going on. I think for kids like that, the social distancing part's really hard, and they're missing parts of their that what filled their bucket. So we're trying to touch them every other day. We don't want to get in all their business, but trying to make sure they're all well and doing well, and have as much information as they can on what's coming up next and when that might be.
It's weird. I don't think we actually got a chance to talk to you after all of this happened. And so what's your take on all of it and everything being canceled?
Well, I was initially, I think anybody that knows me knows I'm a little bit of a skeptic. So I was initially in the maybe we're overreacting mode. But now that I've kind of stepped back from it and unpacked some of this stuff and seen it with people I trust, I said to some people, I was using Hunter Yurchek and Greg Sankey as my filter. Those are the two people who I've been in really high intense meetings where a lot of tough decisions have to be made. And they earned my respect and my trust. So I was kind of saying all along, hey, and until Commissioner Sankey cancels the men's SEC tournament, I'm not going to worry about this Corona thing, or until Hunter tells us something, I'm not going to worry about it. I didn't listen. Those were my filters because I thought they were very informed. I thought they took their advice from really, really smart people around them and have been proven to make great decisions. So when I heard that the SEC men's tournament was canceled, I got a little pit in my stomach that I've probably only had 2 or 3 other times in my life. And that was when I realized there was probably something more to this. And I always felt like we probably weren't operating with the most information. So I went from being maybe one of the skeptics to a believer pretty fast. And then with our kids, just trying to explain the best we can. No class I took, no book I've ever read, no TED Talk I've ever watched ever prepared you for having to, have those conversations with these kids that something they've dreamed about for a lifetime wasn't going to end the way they thought it was. So I think it's a great example. We've learned a lot of lessons that we can use for future teams. But, man, it doesn't make it any easier on these kids that are going through it right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did they react when you told them, that a team that had worked so hard to make it to the NCAA tournament wasn't going to get the chance to play?
Yeah, I'm not sure I got a chance to really understand all of their true feelings because we weren't together. Again, Hunter, I think, took a really strong stance, and I think the appropriate stance that it was unfortunate that we all found out at the same time via a Twitter from the NCAA. But we had been in a meeting. We had our administration. I had some of our administration over there. We'd met with our team. It was that Thursday. We'd been planning on taking the weekend off. The way our schedule had formatted, had scheduled that little scrimmage game that we had. And then we were going to let them go home and enjoy time with their family because we were expecting to miss spring break with the NCAA tournament. So we let them scatter. And about 15 minutes after I stood in front of them saying, I don't think we're near, canceling this thing. We'll hear the word postponed before we hear canceled. We scattered, and they started going home and packing, and they found out on Twitter. So kind of hurt my credibility a little bit by saying I didn't think they would, but that's okay. None of us at that point in time knew. So only a few of them have I really got to see their in-person genuine reactions because I haven't had contact with them. I would tell you again, they're all different. Come at it from a different filter, a different lens, whatever you want to say. And I think we're still all dealing with it. But their initial reaction was shock and disbelief, then I think hurt and the what if, the what could have been, what do we do next? Just the uncertainty that I think every single person is feeling in some shape, form, or fashion. So I'm kind of letting them deal with it. We're really relying on our on-campus people who are trained in mental health. And the one thing I took away from their meeting was just let these kids feel what they're feeling. Don't try to shape what they're going through because they're all coming at it from, like I say, a different lens and a different filter. So be there for them. Don't feel like you're going to have all the answers. That's been easy on my part because I'm never used to having all the answers anyway. But, let them deal with it. Let them express it and manage it as they come. And some people happen faster. Others are still probably coping with it. And then there's a certain number of people who is just, okay, well, what's next? That's just the way they go about their everyday life anyway. So as unique a personalities as we have all the way through, we're kind of getting that same in the reaction. I do think they're all safe. I do think they're all, dealing with it. I think they're aware where they've got great resources. The university's been amazing at providing them ample opportunities to get information, to receive help. And I think that has helped a tremendous amount in them being able to move forward.
What about you? How have you been handling things?
My house is cleaner than it's ever been. I've washed my hands more this month than I probably did in the last 10 years. Starting to get some of the baby stuff put together. I'm working on just stuff around the house. I can tell you I have spent more time in the walls of this house in the last probably 2 to 3 weeks. How long were we counting? 2 weeks? Is that about what we're saying?
Yeah, like 2
weeks out. Probably than I did combined the first 2 years I lived here. I'm not an inside person. I like to be out doing. So this has been really challenging to not go places, to social distance. I've caught myself going in for hugs like I always do. And man, I'm getting the Heisman an awful lot. Like, whoa, get away. I don't know. Everybody said, I bet you're reading a lot. I don't think I've opened a book since this happened, and I'm an avid reader normally. So I found other things to do, I guess, things that have been neglected, things that have been put back. I've really encouraged anybody around our program, team, staff, players, support staff. I just want them to come out whenever it is. I don't know when it's going to be nice to. I just want everybody to be fresh. So do all those things. Take out the garbage that you hadn't taken out for months. Clean up whatever. Because when we come back, I think it's going to be really important for all of us to be adaptable and be open to change and open to new ideas and things. And if we've still got this long list of things that we wanted to get done, not done, I think we're not going to be as good as we can be at it. So I'm organizing. I'm moving things from you've been at the house. So I'm moving things from the movie room to the game room and the game room to the storage and working on the nursery. The pantry, it does not look the same as it did the last time you were here. There's actually food in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's way different. Yeah, way different. So just, kind of prioritizing it. It's one of those things. I guess I was talking to one of my best friends when I said, I liken this personally to me to when I had that first heart attack. It's life-changing. I mean, it puts your priorities and what's important really, really front and center. Hey, if I can only hang out with 10 people, man, who is that? Who are those 10 people? And, making sure that even though I've got way more than 10 friends that I want to hang out with, that everybody's touched during this time, and checking in on people. I've done that a better job. So it's refreshing in a way. It's frustrating in a way. Those moments when, I'll get on social media and somebody will say something like, well, this would be the start of the Sweet 16 round. That's a gut punch, because I'm telling you, I really think we would have been there. And I know a lot of people are going to stand around, talk about what they think and predict where they would have been. And I just think the way this team was starting to play well again at the end of the year, and I was hopeful of the draw we were going to get. I think we had gotten into that 6-7 range, which is a really exciting place to be. So, you hear those things and you get that gut punch back every now and then. But for the most part, plugging along, doing things that I wouldn't have told you I would normally be doing at the very end of March, but, be adaptable.
I've seen you all over Twitter recently coming up with different lists and stuff. Yeah. Is something about VHSs that you had and you were going to lend out and put on people's doorsteps?
I was kind of kidding about that, but some people took me seriously. They were like, can I really come get them? I need to see that. I was like, well, I'll leave it out there. I'll put it out by the mailbox. You can pick it up. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your question.
No, that's what I was wondering, if anyone actually took you up on that offer.
I had some people try. Yeah, I really did. I meant it. I was moving some stuff out of that closet up there in the movie room, making some room for some diapers. Yeah. And I got all those VHSs in one place, and I put them in order, and I was like, do I really have 4 copies of Pretty Woman? And do I have 3 copies of this? And, everybody was like hitting me, like thinking that the number of copies meant how good I thought the movie was. In all actuality, what that meant was my memory is so crappy that when I would see them on sale at a vintage market for a quarter or a dime or whatever, I would go, hey, wait, do I have Pretty Woman? For a dime, who cares? I'm going to take it just in case. So I did work at Blockbuster Video back in the day. In fact, the one that was on College Avenue, we built from the ground up with a local franchisee that I got to be friends with. So I've got a background in love of VHS, and, I'm also a little bit of a collector, not a hoarder. There's a big difference between hoarding and collecting. But that VHS one got a lot of people really rolling. So now people are sending in request lists for, hey, do your top 10 this, do your top 5 that. So I try to do one a day. And that's kind of just a little fun departure from some of the other things that are not quite as fun.
And then just lastly, I know you feel bad for the seniors and their season getting cut short. Just what do you have to say about Kiera and Alexis and what they were able to help you guys do this season?
Just that we'll never let the fact that 1 or 2 games or 3 games or 5 games, how many ever it would have been, be lost. We won't let what they got accomplished be forgotten. I've said I'll stand up on top of Bud Walton Arena or Old Main, wherever they'll let me go, and shout out what those kids did, and I've talked about Kiera, being the one that was here that stayed when she didn't have to. She could have gone like everybody else did when there was a coaching change and things weren't going so well. A lot of kids did, and she didn't. She stayed, and she was a huge part of the building the foundation. Even that first year, even when we only won 13 games, she was a massive part of that. And then in recruiting her own cousin, Aaron Barnum, to come up and play with us and help her grow into a player that took some of her minutes. Nobody will sometimes talk about that, but Aaron Barnum, her cousin, who she helped recruit to come here, cut into her minutes, and a selfish person wouldn't have done that. And she got hurt a little bit this year, and, that was hard during her senior year. She never was a distraction from our team. Just what can I do? And I will never, whether it takes Bud Walton Arena or Old Main, I'll make sure people remember Kiera. And then Lex believing in us when there wasn't any reason. We didn't have any portfolio of, hey, you come here and things are going to end up great for you. There was no practical evidence for that other than she believed in us. And she wanted to be a Razorback. So for her to come in after transferring from UCA and then to Jones, she had other options. She was on campus at Mississippi State up for an official visit when we were talking to her. And, she could have gone to a place that was going to back-to-back Final Fours, but she wanted to come home, wanted to be a part of something. So since they did both of those things, it's just imperative that we continue to find a way. I don't know whether we're going to be able to put up on our banner in the gym that we were an NCAA tournament team yet or not. We don't know that. We don't know whether that's going to be a thing. Are we going to be able to do that? And that's something they've asked. Coach, are we going to have a year up there so when we bring our kids back or our families back in the future, we point up there and say, hey, we were on that team? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I said, if we don't have it on a banner, we're going to have it someplace. And there's going to be a special place because this is uncharted waters and uncharted times. So, what they did and how they did, more importantly, how they went about doing it, not the games that they won or the records that they set or the honors that they received, but how they went about doing it. Seeing that long line of kids standing up there in Bud Walton Arena waiting for a picture with those guys before our last games. They just really came from our state, stayed home, came back, did all the things that they did, and I'll talk about them forever until people make me shut up.
You're already looking forward to next year?
Already, yeah, really am. I think we had to, kind of come up with an opinion about eligibility for winter sports players. And, I think as much as we would love to have those kids back, it's just there's so many unanswered questions about what that would look like for our underclassmen too. If you give a senior a year back, do you give the sophomores and freshmen? And then how does that affect your incoming freshmen? How does that affect the next recruiting class? So we've had to do a little bit of early looking ahead, but when you start doing that and you start looking at the roster and the potential with the incoming kids and, getting Jalen Mason back, the day that we tried to get that we were hopeful that you and Alyssa could come out and be guest coaches. Yeah. Obviously life happened and you guys needed to be where y'all were at.
Yeah, a lot happened that day.
Yeah, a lot happened that day. So I don't blame you for being there, but Jalen Mason in that game scored 41 points.
Wow.
And you're just sitting there the whole time thinking.
She's better. She's doing
sitting there thinking, well, no, and we knew she was going to be because all year long she got to be Kennedy Carter. She got to be Ryan Howard. She got to be Deja. She got to be whoever the other team's best guard was and just play loose and play free. And in doing that, I think she realized there's some things out there that maybe she didn't even know that she could do. But when she dropped 41 in that, we're kind of all looking around at each other like two things. One, man, I'm glad she's coming back next year and can't wait for her to get back and hear her name announced, in Bud Walton Arena. And two, can you imagine if she'd have been eligible this year? Some of the playing time, some of the shots distribution, just some of the things that might have been. But, I think she looks like a genius right now. She's a really, really smart kid already. But you talk about a kid who looks like she may be clairvoyant a little bit. She had a decision to make at Christmas. This injury I'm feeling, and do I think I can get back and be the normal self and have a good senior year? And just shows you how informed that kid is. She listened to a lot of doctors. She listened to her family, people that loved her, her body, and just, said, I think the best thing for me to do is come back. So she looks very clairvoyant at this point. I'm going to ask her for some stock tips, I think. But, the excitement for next year's obviously going to be building. I think, some of these way too early, way too early polls are coming out and hearing our name thrown around where I'm hearing it thrown around is scary, but exciting. And I know that our kids will come out of this thing on the better side of it for sure.